For this course, imagine you run a small restaurant and you deliver food to customers. You can work faster if you have a set of maps to help you find all those destinations, and it'd be nice if those maps were generated automatically when you enter a customer's address. In Access, you can do that with the web browser control, and that's a control you add to a form. So for this example, I'll start with a table of customer data, and notice that the table has a calculated field that concatenates addresses into a single string of text and numbers. You use the expression builder to create that field, and here's what the expression looks like. And yes, I'll show you how to do this in the practice. I also have a form that I use to input the delivery addresses, and this is where I'll add the browser control. But before I do, you need to remember a couple points. First, you have to be connected to the web in order to use the control. Second, the control uses a URL to request data from the mapping site, and in order to get the right map, you'll include the delivery addresses as part of that URL. In other words, you'll use the addresses as parameters in the URL, and they tell your mapping site which map to display. So before I start, I need to decide which mapping site to use, and I'll use Bing Maps. And next, I need to know how to use the addresses as parameters, so I'll go to Help for Bing Maps, and most mapping sites will provide this kind of help. I'll search on Build a URL, open this topic, and I can see that Bing wants me to use a base URL which just navigates to the mapping service, and then a question mark, and then any parameters. So a bit deeper into the documentation, and I find the where1 parameter, and you can see this is how you search for a given address. That's enough to get started, so back to my database, switch the form to Layout View, and on the Design tab, in the Controls group, I'll click the Web Browser control here. I'll click where I want to place the control, and that starts the Insert Hyperlink dialog box. I'll enter the base URL here, and notice that you don't use a question mark because Access will add it for you. In the name field, I'll enter the where1 parameter, and then I'll click the Build button here, and that starts the expression builder. I'll make sure the Deliveries form is selected here in the Expression Elements pane. I'll make sure that Field List is selected here in the Expression Categories pane. And then in the Expression Values pane, I'll scroll to and double-click the Full Address field. Click OK to finish creating the expression, then OK again to close the dialog box, and the control appears on the form. You can see it isn't very big, so I'll select the new control, press the Shift key, and select the cells around it. Go to the Arrange tab, and click Merge. Drag to resize the control, and now you can see that as I scroll through the addresses, a map appears for each one. So let's add a twist and include driving directions with your map. If you go back to the Help for Bing Maps, you'll see this parameter here, RTP. You can see it takes two arguments, a starting address and an ending address, and they're separated by a tilde. To include driving directions along with your map, you need to replace the where1 parameter with this new RTP parameter. Open the form in Layout View, click the control, then right-click the Layout selector here, and click Properties. Go to the Control Source property here, and then click the Build button. In the name field, replace where1 with RTP, and then click this other Build button to start the expression builder, and enter this expression. This expression uses the restaurant's address as the starting address, and then it uses the data in the full address field as the ending address for each delivery. And if you're new to expressions, I'll show you what each argument does in the practice and also in the quick reference card at the end of this course. Click OK again to commit the new expression and close the dialog box. And now you have driving directions in addition to your map. You'll get a chance to try all this out in the practice, so keep going.